What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and you're watching our college football channel. We continue to go through our 2022 predictions. The ACC is up next. I'm going to show you how I'm predicting the standings to look at the end of the season, and then we will, of course, predict the conference championship game. I've done probably half of the teams in the ACC, maybe a little bit more than that, as far as the individual videos go. So this is really going to be the first time you see my prediction for several teams here in the conference. We're going to start in the Atlantic Division. I have Syracuse at the bottom, going 1-7 in conference play, 3-9 overall. Now this team, I don't think it's going to be that bad, but it's just the schedule. I mean, where do you find the wins? I'm giving them a win against UConn, Wagner, and then also getting a conference win over Virginia. But then when you look at the rest of the schedule, you got Louisville, who I'm pretty high on. I think Louisville's going to win that game. You got Purdue, team that I'm picking to go to the Big Ten championship game. Pretty high on them as well. And then the last part of their schedule, NC State, Clemson, Notre Dame, Pittsburgh, Florida State, Wake Forest, and Boston College on the road to close it out. Just a bunch of tough games there. I mean, maybe you find a win against Florida State at home or maybe against Boston College there at the end, but I think it's going to be very tough for Syracuse. So while I don't think this team is going to be, an absolutely terrible team, it could be kind of like Nebraska of last year, a team that loses a lot of close games. Now, I don't think they're going to stay close in every game. I don't see them hanging real close with Clemson on the road. Even Pitt on the road, I think it'll be tough for them. But with Notre Dame, NC State at home, they can probably make those interesting games. But at the end of the day, it's too tough of a schedule. I don't think Syracuse is going to be that good. Yes, Sean Tucker's back at running back. He's really, really good. Garrett Schrader back at quarterback. Really need to see a little bit more from him in the passing game. Several players back on defense, but again, it's just that schedule. I don't think they can get it done against that schedule. Boston College just ahead of them. 3-5 in the conference, 6-6 overall. This is a team that has a good bit of production coming back. They're not going to have the talent that maybe some of the top teams in the conference have, but I've got them beating Rutgers, Maine, Louisville at home, UConn, Duke, and Syracuse. Losing on the road at Virginia Tech, on the road at Florida State, losing to Clemson at home, on the road at Wake Forest, losing to NC State at home, and losing to Notre Dame on the road. So those are the 6 losses, the 6 wins, 6 losses. And, maybe some things change around there a little bit. But I feel pretty good about that. I think Boston College probably going to be 6-6, but a pretty good 6-6 team. Kind of the same theme there as we just had with Syracuse. Moving on to the team just ahead of Boston College. That's going to be Wake Forest. All the way down here at 5th in the division. They are in a tie, but still, this is a team that I think could be a top 25 team. Of course, the issue with Sam Hartman definitely makes this one tricky. But yeah, I think 8-4, pretty good year for them. But this is going to be a competitive division. I mean, as good as it's been in a long time. Again, I'm talking about Syracuse there at the bottom. I think they're going to be a good 3-9 team. So Wake Forest, because of the way the schedule plays out and the tiebreakers, they do finish here technically in 5th place. I've got them losing to Clemson, Florida State, Louisville on the road, NC State on the road. That Florida State game also is on the road. Those are the 4 losses. I have them beating everyone else. Maybe they take care of business against Florida State, or maybe Louisville could get to 9-3, but I don't see them doing much better than 9-3. So I've got them there at 8-4, ahead of them. And again, tied here. Florida State 4-4 in the conference, 7-5 overall. A little bit better than last year. I think they do get to a bowl game. I've got them losing to LSU, got them losing on the road at Louisville, on the road at NC State, losing to Clemson, and losing to Miami on the road. I do have them beating Florida, but it could very easily be 6-6. Maybe they lose to Florida. Maybe they lose to Syracuse. Maybe that gets Syracuse another win. Something like that could happen. But yeah, this is a 6-6, 7-5 type team for me. And I did a video on them, so you can go back and watch that if you missed it. Number 3, we've got Louisville, a team that I think could be a sleeper in this division. I've got them going 5-3 in the conference, 8-4 overall. This is a team that I think could be, again, a surprise team. I've got them losing to UCF on the road. They're going to be a tough game there. Losing to Boston College on the road, losing to Clemson on the road, and then losing to Clemson on the road. So I've got them beating NC State. They get them at home, beating Pitt and Wake Forest, They get them at home, and Florida State at home. So some tough games there, but I've got them winning those games. Maybe they trip up and lose one of those games, but then maybe they beat a Boston College or beat UCF. So however it shakes out, I think 8-4 are going to be the record there for Louisville. And I don't see them beating Kentucky this year, but still a really good year at 8-4, 5-3 in the conference. Just ahead of them, NC State, I've got them at 6-2 in the ACC, 10-2 overall. I have them losing to Clemson on the road and then losing to Louisville. But, I mean, I think they're going to beat everyone else. You look at their schedule. Who do you have on the road here? Really no one. North Carolina at the end. That's their only tough road game outside of Clemson and Louisville. So they've got a really favorable schedule. Unless they were to maybe get upset by Syracuse or something. They get Florida State at home, Wake Forest at home, Boston College at home, Virginia Tech at home. Really, really good schedule for NC State. And that's why I think they finished number 2, possibly even number 1. I think they've got a shot, but my number 1 team still right now, it's Clemson. I think Clemson wins this division. They go 8-0, lose the one game out of the conference to Notre Dame to finish 11-1. But this is not, I've been really looking at this Clemson team. I do not believe this is a Clemson team that is in that class with Georgia, Alabama, and Ohio State. I think they have fallen off a little bit. And perhaps they lose a couple games. Maybe they lose to Florida State or maybe Miami. You know, they could lose a second game. That would not surprise me at all. But again, their defense is going to be really, really good. And when you look at the schedule, there's really no one you're going to say, yeah, Clemson's going to lose that game. I mean, they might even beat Notre Dame. That wouldn't surprise me either. So they're a 10-2, 11-1 type team, but I don't know if they're good enough to run the table this year. But I do think they are good enough to win the division and go to the ACC championship. We'll start at the bottom of the Coastal Division. I've got Duke finishing at 2-10 overall, 0-8 in the conference. Just really don't see them winning a conference game this year. Rebuilding year, new coaching staff, just not a lot on the roster to get excited about, honestly. So, yeah, I don't think Duke's going to be very good. I've even got them losing to Kansas. They played them on the road. Only wins coming against Temple and North Carolina A&M, or A&T, I should say. Those will be the only wins for me, so I think it's a rough year for Duke. Ahead of them, we've got Virginia at 2-6 in the conference, 6-6 overall, so they just make it into a bowl game. Wins over Richmond, Illinois, Old Dominion, Duke, North Carolina, and Coastal Carolina. I think they get the one big win against North Carolina, a home game for them. Losses on the road at Syracuse and Georgia Tech, and Virginia Tech on the road as well, losing to Louisville, Miami, and Pitt at home. They could possibly pull off one of those wins, but then they at the same time could lose to North Carolina. So I think 6-6, pretty fair record for Virginia. And ahead of them, so all right, this is kind of weird. Georgia Tech ahead of them at 2-6 over in the conference, but just 3-9 overall, and that's just because of the tiebreaker. I had Georgia Tech beating Virginia, but only winning 3 games overall. They have a brutal non-conference schedule. Yes, I think they beat Western Carolina, but then it's Ole Miss, UCF, and Georgia. Don't really see them winning any of those games. Maybe they beat UCF. They'll have a chance in that game, but I'm going to go with UCF. So I've got them beating Duke and Virginia in the conference. So it's interesting that they would finish ahead of Virginia in the conference standings despite having a much worse record. Virginia has a much easier non-conference schedule. North Carolina coming in at number 4, 3-5 in the conference, 6-6 overall. I've got them losing to Miami on the road, Virginia on the road, Wake Forest on the road, losing to Notre Dame, Pitt, and NC State at home. Those will be the losses. Wins over Florida A&M, App State, Georgia State, Virginia Tech, Duke, and Georgia Tech. A young team. I think, they've got a nice start there. Some good young talent on the roster. But when you look at this year, I just don't think it's there yet. I think it's going to be a decent year for them getting to a bowl game, but nothing really much more than that. I've got Virginia Tech finishing 3rd. This would be kind of my sleeper team in this division. Louisville in the Atlantic, Virginia Tech in the Coastal. New coaching staff there, but they've got some pieces. This is a pretty good roster. I've got them going 7-5, 4-4 in the conference. I've got them beating Old Dominion, Boston College, Wofford, Georgia Tech, Duke, Liberty, and Virginia. And the way it shakes out, I've actually got them winning their first 3 games and then winning their final 4 games, losing all the games in the middle. West Virginia, North Carolina, Pitt, Miami, and NC State. Those games in the middle of the schedule are the losses for me. But yeah, I think they have a pretty good year. Maybe surprise some people. Wouldn't be shocked if they did a little bit better than that. Maybe even gets to 8-4. But I'm going to put them at 7-5. I've got Pittsburgh at number 2 in this division, 6-2 in the conference, 9-3 overall. A team that's going to have a good, solid defense, be able to run the football. Keaton Slovis will be the key. If he can step in there and kind of play like Kenny Pickett did for them, Pittsburgh will have a chance to win this division and maybe get to a New Year's Six bowl again. I've got them losing to Tennessee and then losing to Louisville and Miami on the road. So those are the 3 losses for me. But I think it's going to be another good year for Pittsburgh, a team that finishes in the top 25. I've got Miami, though, winning this division. I did a video, of course, on them. Went through, did my predictions, talked about why I think they will beat Texas A&M and why I think they will win this division. Only loss coming to Clemson on the road, 11-1, 7-1 in ACC play, enough to get them into the ACC championship game against Clemson, a rematch just a couple of weeks before the championship game. These two teams will meet, and you know it's a tough one. A lot of people say, well, it's hard to beat a team twice, but if you look at this, and I know I've said this many times, if you look at the stats on it, teams that have met in conference championship games in college football, the team that won the first time usually wins the second time. That's the way it works in college football, in conference championship games. I think in bowl games it's the same way, but I think the number is a little bit higher in conference championship games. Having said that, I think Miami wins this game. I think Miami is going to win the ACC championship. Call me crazy, but I think the pieces are there. I think they learned from the loss to Clemson. The game against Clemson is on the road. Now they get a neutral site game. I think that'll help them out. They don't have to deal with that crowd noise. I think Tyler Van Dyke wins the quarterback battle between these two quarterbacks. And yeah, Clemson has a really, really good defense, but Miami is pretty strong across the board. When you look at their whole team, they don't really have any major weaknesses. The offensive line may be a question, but that Mario Cristobal is the perfect coach to fix that. They've got just an elite coaching staff. Their assistants, really, really good. A lot of experience there. A lot of really good coaches. They've got a loaded staff, a deep roster, a lot of experience, a quarterback that I think can get it done. And I'm picking Miami to beat Clemson and win the ACC championship in 2022. Probably not many people are going to agree with that pick. Usually my picks are pretty conservative, but we're going to go out on a limb a little bit here in the ACC and say that Miami wins this conference. Would love to get your thoughts on this. How do you think the standings are going to shake out? Give me your thoughts down in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more here on the SG1 Sports College Football Channel.